This is one of the most important things that we as human beings can do. After Allah, after the deen, is your parents. Like, that's number one, right? So it's really, really important that we do whatever we can to keep our parents happy. And you know, I've been looking into this topic a lot for my own life and my own relationship with my parents. And you know, some of the shuyukh, they were saying, look, it's not just about like giving your parents your rights. Your parents are probably the only people where you have to proactively try to make them happy. Obviously, we're all human beings, so we all react sometimes in a way that we shouldn't. The whole nature of us as people is that we're going to sin, we're going to make mistakes. The problem and the difference between a good Muslim and a bad Muslim is not that they don't make mistakes, it's the fact the way they react after they've made the mistake. So sometimes people act like shaitan. They're like, it's his fault that I did this, it's his fault, it's her fault. They blame it someone else, they don't take responsibility, and that's where it ends, right? Other people, they react like Adam alayhi salam. They took full responsibility, they ask Allah for forgiveness, and they try and do something different, right? So this is the way we want to kind of behave. What I would say is, one, I think we all need to work on managing and mastering our emotions. Okay, we all need to work on this. This is not just for parents, but our own sanity and our own lives, especially when we get married, all these things. Like, managing your own emotions is one of the biggest things, and it's one of the hardest things. Why? Because the ego comes into it, and when the ego comes in, the ego doesn't care about anything. This is why you are seeing people murder and mutilate innocent people right now. You're seeing it live on TV. Why? Because the ego is involved, and the ego, the only thing the ego cares about is itself. It does not care about anybody else. There's no empathy there, right? And so the ego is something that we all suffer from. It's not just these evil people that are killing others. We all suffer from the problems of the ego, and so it's really important for us to start to master this, for us to start to get into a much better way of doing this. Now, when it comes to states, we've talked about the state, like what kind of state am I in? What kind of mindset am I in? And we said that when it comes to states, there's certain things. So for example, something that will affect your state is your physiology. Like the way your body is will affect your state. So for example, if I frown and I get into a little ball and I sit there with my head in my hands, you might find that you actually start feeling negative because your physiology affects your psychology, right? But if I stand there with my hands up, like, yeah, like that, you might find it actually makes you feel happier. So your physiology, the way you're physically being, will affect your state. So that is something you can play with. So for example, if you're speaking to your parents, rather than sitting down looking up at them like, what the hell, like, maybe you could change your physiology, right? The second thing is your focus. Like, what are you actually focusing on? This will really, really change your state. Okay, are you focusing on the fact that, you know, you feel annoyed by what your parents are saying? Or are you focusing on the fact that your parents care enough to tell you about this? Okay, what is it? Like, sometimes I've had discussions with other sisters where they're like, you know, my mom and dad, they're too controlling. Why are they too controlling? Because they don't let me go out at midnight and da-da-da. I'm like, okay, so one way of defining that is controlling. Another way is caring. So what are you focusing on? Are you focusing on the fact that you're annoyed? Are you focusing on the fact that they are caring for you? Are you focusing on the fact that you take it for granted that these guys are going to be around forever? Or are you focusing on shaitan who's saying, yeah, don't worry, tomorrow, right? What are you focusing on? And then the other thing that affects your state is your words, okay? Your words. Like, what words are you using? What words are you using? Because when it comes to these kind of things, the whole narrative, and you'll see this again, I keep going back to like what's happening in Gaza, is that if you look at what is being said, it's very interesting. Like, they're using words to just trample on everything, right? And it's the same for us. Like, the story that you tell yourself will affect the way you feel. Okay, so the words that you use. So if you say, oh my God, these are my annoying parents talking to me again, it's very different to, you know, these are the parents that Allah gave me who I must treat amazingly talking to me. Like, it will make you feel completely different. So the story that you tell yourself, the words that you use will actually change the way you act in that moment.